Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about The Funhouse by Dean Koontz. Got a little picture inside the flap. And this edition is from Berkeley. There you go. I'm continuing my reading of novelizations of movies, and so this is Dean Koontz's novelization of the movie The Funhouse. It does say in little tiny print down here, previously published under the pseudonym Owen West, and you have to go to the copyright page where it says, based on a screenplay by Larry Block. So obviously this is not a first edition or anything, because that would say Owen West, and the old ones, the originals, did have on the cover that it was based on a screenplay, but that's no longer there. So before I get into the book itself a little bit, I know I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that they believe the movie The Funhouse was based on the Dean Koontz book. Because the book actually came out before the movie. The movie got pushed back, I believe. I'm not saying that's the only reason that people think that, but yeah, a lot of people seem to think, at least a lot of people I've talked to, seem to think that the movie's based on the book, but the book is in fact based on the movie. And here's the thing, having now read this book, this book is about, maybe I'm being generous here, 10% the movie and 90% original material. Now, Dean Koontz, there is an afterword, and I found it a little insulting to the movie personally. Maybe because I'm not a big Dean Koontz fan. Used to be, not anymore. But in the afterword, Dean Koontz talks about how writing this novelization came about and the whole Owen West pseudonym thing. But then he talks about the movie. And part of what he says I agree with. You know, there's plenty of room for filling in details and things. But then when he says, and I'm just going to read this to you, he says, and maybe he's being sarcastic or a little tongue-in-cheek, I don't know. He says, movies are shallow compared to novels, shadows of stories when compared to real stories. And I don't know. Is he saying movies aren't real stories? The hell is that bullshit? He said the script was good as a screenplay, but offered enough material for no more than 10% or 20% of a novel, which is fine, especially a movie like The Funhouse, which is, you know, it's a slasher. It's not a deep movie. It's an enjoyable movie, but it's not a deep movie. So let's get to the book. It's broken up into chapters or sections, books, whatever. It just says 1, 2, 3, although there are chapters within those. But we have a prologue, and then we have section 1, whatever you want to call it. 2, 3 is the Funhouse, and that starts on page 241 of 320 some pages. That's when we get to the part that's the movie. And even that isn't an accurate depiction of the movie. I mean, it's close. So, all of that being said, what did I think of The Funhouse? What's it about? Well, we start in 1955 with a young woman, 19, 20 years old. She came from a very, very strict family. Her mother, super religious, so she got away as soon as she could, married this carnival barker, and the owner of the Funhouse, and they have she gets pregnant, and she has a monstrosity of a baby. And she is not happy with that, and does some things that her husband does not agree with. Becomes very angry. So basically, he kicks her out and says that he will have his revenge. This is sort of the cold open, and I'm trying not to give details away. But he kicks her out of the carnival, kicks her out of their home, and tells her, you're going to go on and you're going to live your life, and years from now, you're not going to know when or where I will have my revenge. Then we jump to 1980, and we're introduced to Amy Harper, who's our main character, and she is a high school senior, and her mother is incredibly religious and strict, but Amy is pregnant, so there's all of this character stuff going on. And while we're following Amy and what she's going to do about this baby, she's going to tell her mother, who already thinks she's a horrible sinner, because everybody's a horrible sinner. Amy's little brother Joey and what's going on with him, all of this stuff. We'll jump to the carnival every once in a while, and what's going on with Conrad Baker. Let me check. So I keep calling him a Carnival Barker. Straker. Anyway, Conrad, the guy that owns the Funhouse. We keep jumping to him and what's going on, and some horrific things that are happening around the carnival and the Funhouse. But mainly we're focused on Amy Harper and her friends and her family and her mom and their relationship. Until eventually we get to page 241, and Amy and her friends go to the carnival and the Funhouse. And we get to essentially the movie. So, yeah, I'm not giving you a lot, but I don't want to give anything away, because even if you've seen the movie, you don't know what's going on in this book. You know where it's going, obviously. So, all of that being said, I really enjoyed this book. Now, with novelizations, generally, there are some that I've read that it's just like reading the movie. More often than not, you get a little bit of extra material. Whether that's because the author is just fleshing some things out, or because the novelization is based on early drafts of the screenplay, or, of course, the screenplay before the movie's been edited. So you're getting things that didn't make it into the final cut of the movie. There's usually, not always, but usually a little bit of extra material. I recently reviewed the Reanimator novelization, which was incredibly disappointing, but there is a bunch of extra little things that aren't things that are in the movie. This is 90% not the movie. So, but it's a good book. It's interesting. I don't know. Dean Koontz has this thing with super religious mothers. I can't even say both parents. It always seems to be the mother. Whispers, the whole thing with that was a super religious mother. I don't know. And there's tons of Dean Koontz that I've read. Well, a bunch back in the day when I was reading his stuff. And I don't remember that all of it had these super religious mothers. But it is a thing that stands out in my mind with Dean Koontz's writing. And it's... I guess you could say in this case it's a generational thing, because Ellen the woman we meet at the very beginning. Again, her father was a loving, kind man, but the super religious mother ran the house, treated Ellen as if she were just the worst human being in the world, which forced her to leave. And then we jump 25 years, however many years later, 25 years later, and now Amy Harper is in the exact same situation. Her father, a loving, kind man, but it's the super religious mother that rules the house and is shaping her children, and Amy can't wait to get away, fears her mother. And I feel like there was... Did Conrad Straker have the same? I feel like there's a third, like, super religious mother in here. So that seems to me, maybe I'm wrong. Dean Koontz has written tons of books that I have not read. So maybe it's not a thing, and I'm just imagining that it is. Excuse me for a moment. But anyway, yeah, I dug it. It's if you're just expecting to read a version of the movie, that's not what you're getting. You're getting tons and tons and tons of stuff from Dean Koontz's own head. He creates these incredible backstories for these characters, which actually changes the movie. Excuse me. I mean, it doesn't change the movie. Within the book, it changes the events of the movie. There are certain aspects of the film that do not make it in here at all. He had to change certain things to make it fit his narrative. So, I suppose, I don't know how you feel about that sort of thing. I don't mind. It was fun for me to realize that I'm reading a whole bunch of stuff that is not the movie. So novelization is maybe a misnomer in this case. And it does say, as I said, I think it just says based on a screenplay by Larry Block, not the famous Lawrence Block, which Dean Koontz points out in his afterword. So I'd have to look. I don't have any, like, within easy reach, any of the novelizations I have to see if they say, like, a novelization as opposed to just based on. And I think one could make a distinction. Anyway, getting a little rambly. The Funhouse, Dean Koontz. I recommend it. If you're a Dean Koontz fan, maybe you've already read it. I don't know. Maybe you didn't because it's a novelization. But it's actually a very good, interesting books with interesting characters that, if you're a fan of the movie, The Funhouse, this is not that. Very, very little of it is that, but it is interesting. It builds on it. And if you're not a fan of the movie The Funhouse, then I guess it doesn't matter. It's just a crazy book by Dean Koontz. Yeah. Check it out. I'm not jumping back into reading a bunch of Dean Koontz. I only read this because it's based on the movie The Funhouse. I have way too much to read for me to be interested in going back and getting back into Dean Koontz. Just, no, I'm done with him. There you go. That's my thoughts on The Funhouse by Dean Koontz. If I could find an inexpensive copy with Owen West on the cover, an original edition, I might pick it up just to have it. That'd be kind of cool. There are all sorts of different editions out there. I don't think it's going to be difficult for you to find it. All right. Getting rambly. Question for this video. I've talked about novelizations before when I did my review for the Reanimator novelization, and I don't even remember what that question was. Let me throw this out there. How do you feel about a book based on something else that creates 90% of its own story? So if you picked up, let's say, a novelization of Halloween, because I'm looking over there and I have the novelizations for the 2 newest Halloween movies. If you pick up a novelization of Halloween and only 10% of it is the movie and 90% is all original material made up by the author of the book, is that something that you think is interesting? Do you just want to read the novelization of the movie? This may be the question I asked in the Reanimator video. Do you care about novelizations at all? I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. So let's bring this to a close. If you have an answer to my question, put it in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is ErikSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. That's it. That's all I've got for you. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Erik Smith. And until next time, read more books.